We now continue with part 2 of The Sign of 4.
A wharf! The trail ends at a wharf!
They must have taken a boat from here.
These fellows are sharper than I expected. They have, I fear, covered their tracks. The scent is lost, Watson. Our quarry has escaped. But, hello. Perhaps the wharf's owner.
Mordecai Smith, boats to hire by the hour or day. Steam launch available.
More than just a coincidence, I think. Come, Watson. We shall inquire within Mordecai Smith's home.
Bye, Mum. You come back and be washed, Jack. Oh, Mum. If your father comes home and finds you dirty, he'll thrash you blind.
What a rosy-cheeked young rascal. Now, Jack, is there anything you would like?
I'd like a shilling.
Nothing you would like better?
I'd like 2 shillings better.
Ah, here you are then, catch.
Thank you, Gov.
A fine child, Mrs. Smith.
Lord bless you, sir. But he's almost too much for me to manage, especially with my man away.
Away, is he? I'm sorry for that, for I wanted to hire a steam launch.
Oh, bless you, sir. But he and his launch been away since yesterday. It puzzles me, as I knows there ain't enough coals in it to take her further than Woolwich. Truth to tell, I'm beginning to feel frightened, as I didn't like that wooden-legged man.
A wooden-legged man?
Yes, sir. A brown-faced chap that's called here more than once. It was him that roused me husband up, tapping at the window in the middle of the night. "Time to earn your pay, matey," says he. My old man woke up Jim, that's my eldest, and away they went without so much as a word.
And was this wooden-legged man alone?
Couldn't say, sir. I didn't hear no one else.
I am sorry, Mrs. Smith, for I wanted a steam launch, and I'd heard good reports of the... let me see, what is her name?
The Aurora, sir.
The Aurora. She's that broad old green launch with the yellow line.
No, indeed. She's a trim little thing, black with 2 red streaks.
Ah, well, if I should see anything of the Aurora, I shall let Mr. Smith know you are uneasy. A black funnel, you say?
No, sir. Black with a white band.
Ah, of course. It was the sides that were black. Good morning, Mrs. Smith.
Our course now seems clear. We should go down river and track the Aurora.
My dear fellow, she may have touched at any wharf between here and Greenwich. It would take us days to exhaust them all if you set about it alone.
Employ the police, then?
No. I shall probably call Athelney Jones in at the last moment, but I have a fancy for working it out myself.
Then what are we to do?
You remember the Baker Street division of the police force? The street urchins I employed in the Jefferson Hope case?
Very well.
This is just the case where they might be invaluable. I'll wire their lieutenant, that dirty little street rat, Wiggins. Then we'll take a hansom home and have some breakfast. I expect that Wiggins and his gang will be with us before we finish our ham and eggs.
A bath at Baker Street freshened me up considerably. When I came back down to the sitting room, I found the breakfast laid out and Holmes pouring coffee.
Here, Watson, the morning paper. The energetic Jones and a ubiquitous reporter have fixed it up between them.
Mysterious business at Upper Norwood. Mr. Bartholomew Sholto of Pondicherry Lodge was found dead in his room last night under mysterious circumstances. The discovery was first made by Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Do go on, it gets better.
Who had called at the house with Mr. Thaddeus Sholto, brother of the deceased. By a singular piece of good fortune, Mr. Athelney Jones, the well-known police detective, happened to be at the Norwood police station and was on the ground within half an hour of the first alarm. Mr. Jones' well-known powers of minute observation has produced the gratifying result that the brother has already been arrested, together with the housekeeper, an Indian butler, and the gatekeeper. This prompt and energetic action of the law shows the great advantage of a single vigorous and masterful mind.
Isn't it gorgeous? What do you think?
I think that we've had a close shave of being arrested for the crime ourselves.
So do I. I wouldn't answer for our safety if Jones should have another attack of energy.
By heavens, Holmes, Jones really is after us.
No, it's not Jones. It is the unofficial force. The Baker Street Irregulars.
What are you
got your message, sir, and brought 'em on sharp. A free bob and a tenner for tickets.
Here you are. In future, they can report to you, Wiggins, and you to me. Mrs. Hudson's health will not stand the house being invaded in this way. Now, I want you to find the whereabouts of a steam launch called the Aurora. Owner Mordecai Smith, black with 2 red streaks, funnel black with a white band. She's downriver somewhere. You must divide out and search both banks thoroughly. Let me know the moment you have news. Is that all clear?
Yes, Governor.
The old scale of pay, and a guinea to the boy who finds the boat. Here's a day in advance.
Oh, thank you, Governor.
Off you go.
You heard the Governor. Out you go. Out you go. Put that back, Jim. Everyone downriver, right away.
If the launch is above water, they will find her. They can go everywhere, see everything, overhear everyone. I expect they will have spotted the Aurora and her crew before evening. It ought to be an easy task. Wooden-legged men are not so common, but the other man must be absolutely unique.
That other man again. You're making such a mystery of him.
I have no wish to make a mystery of him. To you, anyway. Consider the data. Diminutive naked footmarks, great agility, poisoned darts, clearly shot from a blowpipe. What does this all suggest?
A savage. Perhaps one of those Indians associated with Jonathan Small.
Hardly an Indian. Let me see. This book may be looked upon as the latest authority. What have we here? Andaman Islands, situated 340 miles north of Sumatra. Reminds me to tell you a tale about that country's rats one day. Here we are. The Aborigines of the Andaman Islands have the distinction of being the smallest race on Earth with an average height below 4 feet. They are a fierce and intractable people, though capable of forming devoted friendships when their confidence has been gained. Mark that, Watson. Their proportions are distinctive, with large, misshapen heads and remarkably small feet and hands. They have always been a terror to shipwrecked crews, braining the survivors with clubs or shooting them with poisoned arrows. Nice, amiable people, Watson. I fancy that Jonathan Small would give a good deal not to have employed one of them.
But how came Small to have such a singular companion?
Since we had already determined that Small came from the Andamans, it's not so unusual that an islander should be with him. But look here, Watson. You look regularly done in.
Are you going to sleep, Holmes?
No, I am not tired. I never tire by work, though idleness exhausts me completely. I'm going to play my violin and think over this queer business. Lie down on the sofa and see if I can't play you to sleep.
He began to play. Exhaustion took me, and I floated peacefully away until I found myself in dreamland, with the sweet face of Mary Morstan looking down upon me. It was late in the afternoon before I awoke, strengthened and refreshed. Sherlock Holmes sat exactly as I'd seen him last, save that he had laid aside his violin. His face was dark and troubled.
I trust you slept soundly? I feared that our talk would wake you.
Do you have fresh news, then?
Unfortunately, no. Wiggins has just been up to report, and no trace can be found of the launch. I confess that I'm both surprised and disappointed, for every hour is of importance.
Can I do anything? I am perfectly fresh now and ready for another night's outing.
No. You can do what you will, but I can only wait.
Then I shall run over to Camberwell and call upon Mrs. Cecil Forrester.
On Mrs. Forrester?
Well, on Miss Morstan, too. They were anxious to hear what happened.
I would not tell them too much, Watson. Women are never to be entirely trusted, not the best of them.
At Camberwell, I found Miss Morstan and Mrs. Forrester full of curiosity. I told them all that we had done, suppressing the more dreadful details of Mr. Sholto's death. Even with my omissions, there was still enough to startle and amaze them.
Oh, it is a romance. An injured lady, 500,000 in treasure, a black cannibal, a wooden-legged ruffian.
And 2 knights errant to my rescue.
Why, Mary, your fortune depends upon this search. I don't think that you're nearly excited enough. Just imagine being so rich as to have the world at your feet.
It is for Mr. Thaddeus Sholto that I am anxious. I think that he has behaved most kindly and honourably, and it is our duty to clear him of this dreadful charge.
It sent a thrill of joy to my heart that she showed no elation at the prospect of riches. Her disinterest was enough for dangerous hope to stir in my thoughts. It was evening before I left Camberwell, and quite dark by the time I reached home. The window was dark, and there was no sign of Holmes. I rang upon Mrs. Hudson.
Dr. Watson, what can I do for you?
Have you news of Holmes? I suppose he's gone out.
No, he's gone to his room, sir. Do you know, Dr. Watson, I am afraid for his health.
Why so?
Well, he's gone strange, sir. After you was gone, he walked and walked up and down, muttering to himself the whole time. Every time the bell rang out, he would yell, "What is that, Mrs. Hudson?" And now he's slammed off to his room, but I can hear him walking away, same as ever. I said something to him about rest, but he turned on me with such a look that I don't know how ever I got out of the room.
I don't think that you have any cause to be uneasy, Mrs. Hudson. He has some small matters upon his mind which makes him restless.
If you say so, Dr. Watson, you would know best.
I tried to speak lightly to our worthy landlady, but I was myself uneasy when through the long night I heard the dull sound of his tread, and knew that his keen spirit was chafing against this involuntary inaction. In the morning I woke to find a note from Holmes by my bedside, along with a copy of the Standard.
I am off down the river, Watson, as I can see only one way out. Be a good man and remain here. I have placed an advertisement in the Standard looking for the missing steam launch Aurora. I want you to open all notes and telegrams, and to act on your own judgment if any news should come. I trust I can rely upon you.
It was a long day. Every time a knock came to the door, I imagined that it was either Holmes returning or an answer to his advertisement. At 3 that afternoon, there was a loud peal at the bell, and, to my surprise, Mr. Athelney Jones was shown up. Very different was he, however, from the brusque policeman who had taken over the case so confidently at Upper Norwood.
Good day, sir. Mr. Sherlock Holmes is out, I understand.
Yes, and I cannot say when he will return. Perhaps you would care to wait. Can I offer you a whiskey and soda?
Oh, half a glass. It is very hot for the time of year, and I have had a good deal to try me. You know my theory about this Norwood case?
I remember you expressed one.
Well, I have been obliged to reconsider. I had my neck drawn tightly round Mr. Sholto, sir, when pop, he went through a hole in the middle. He was able to prove that from the time he left his brother's room, he was never out of sight of someone or other, so it could not be he who climbed over roofs and through trap doors. It's a dark case, and my professional credit is at stake. I should be glad of a little assistance.
We all need help sometimes.
Your friend, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, is a wonderful man. I never saw the case yet that he could not throw a light upon. He is irregular in his methods and a little quick in jumping at theories, but on the whole, I think he would have made a most promising officer, and I don't care who knows it. This wire came from him this morning, by which I understand that he has got some clue to this Sholto business.
Go to Baker Street at once. If I have not returned, wait for me. I am close on the track. Come with us tonight if you want to be in at the finish. Oh, this sounds promising. He has evidently picked up the scent again.
Oh, then he has been at fault too. Well, even the best of us are thrown off sometimes. Of course, this may prove to be a false alarm, but it is my duty as an officer of the law to allow no chance to slip. Oh, but there is someone at the door. Perhaps this is he. Oh, no, it's not but an old sailor.
Is Mr. Sherlock Holmes here?
No, but I'm acting for him. You can tell me any message you have for him.
It was to him himself I was to tell it.
Was it about Mordecai Smith's boat?
Yes. I knows well where it is. And I knows where the men he's after are. And I knows where the treasure is.
Well, then tell me and I shall let him know.
It was to him I was to tell it.
Then you must wait for him.
No! I ain't gonna lose a whole day to please no one. If Mr. Holmes ain't here, then Mr. Holmes must find it all out for himself.
Wait a bit, my friend.
I shall not.
You shall. You have important information, and we shall keep you here until our friend returns, whether you like it or not.
Gentlemen, I think that you might offer me a whiskey and soda too.
Holmes, you here, but where's the old man?
Here he is, Watson. Wig, whiskers, eyebrows and all. I thought my disguise was pretty good, but I hardly expected it would stand that test.
Oh, you rogue! You would have made an actor in a rare one. I knew the glint of your eye, though. You don't pull the wool over Athelney Jones so easily.
I have been working in that get-up all day. A good many of the criminal classes have begun to know me since our friend here took to publishing some of my cases, so I can only go on the warpath under some simple disguise like this. You got my wire?
Yes, that was what brought me here.
How has your case prospered?
It has all come to nothing. Well, I've had to release 2 of my prisoners, and there is no evidence against the other 2.
We shall give you 2 others in their place. You are welcome to all the official credit, but you must put yourself entirely under my orders. Is that agreed?
Entirely?
Good. I shall want a fast police boat, a steam launch, to be at the Westminster Stairs at 7 o'clock.
Well, that is easily managed.
Manned by 2 staunch men in case of resistance.
There will be 2 or 3 on the boat. What else?
When we secure the men, we shall retrieve the treasure. I think it would be a pleasure for Watson to take the box round to Miss Morstan. Let her be the first to open it.
It would be the greatest pleasure to me.
Or rather an irregular proceeding, but the whole thing is irregular, so I suppose we must wink at it. Of course, the treasure must afterwards be handed over to the proper authorities.
Certainly. One other point. You know I like to work the details of my cases out. I wish to have an unofficial interview with Jonathan Small here at Baker Street.
I have no proof yet of the existence of this Jonathan Small. However, if you catch him, I don't see how I can refuse you an interview.
That is all understood, then?
Perfectly.
Have you a pistol, Watson?
I have my old service revolver.
You had best bring it along. Now, Jones, I insist upon your dining with us. I have oysters and a brace of grouse with a choice in white wines. It will be ready in half an hour. Watson, you have never yet recorded my merits as a housekeeper.
It was a little past 7 before we reached the Westminster Wharf and found our launch awaiting us. Holmes eyed it critically.
Is there anything to mark it as a police boat?
Yes, sir. That green lamp at the side.
Take it off. We must not alert our quarry.
Yes, sir.
We must cast off at once. It is essential that we be in place before dusk settles in.
Then climb aboard, gentlemen. Board the ship, and we'll be off.
What kind of crew do you have?
1 man at the rudder, 1 to tend the engines, and 2 police inspectors forward.
Let us pray it will be enough. Cast off, Inspector.
Yes, sir. Cast off!
Where to?
To the tower. Tell them to stop opposite Jacobson's yard.
You heard the man. Quickly now.
Certainly is a fast craft, Jones. We're passing that river steamer like it was standing still.
I dare say there are not many launches to beat us.
We shall have to be fast enough to catch the Aurora, and she has a name for being a clipper.
We shot through the numerous bridges which spanned the Thames as the last rays of the setting sun gilded the cross upon St. Paul's. It was twilight before we reached the tower.
That is Jacobson's yard. From this point, we can see the entrance, but they can hardly see us. I see my sentry at his post, but no sign of a handkerchief.
Suppose we go downstream and lie and wait for them.
It is 10 to 1 that they go downstream, but we cannot be certain. We must stay where we are. Gentlemen, while we wait, I will tell you how the land lies. Watson, you recollect how annoyed I was that my irregulars were unable to locate the Aurora?
Of course.
Well, I rethought the whole Sholto matter out again. I knew this man Small had a certain degree of low cunning, but I did not think him capable of delicate finesse. That is usually a product of higher education. I then reflected that since he had been in London for some time, as evidenced by his continual watch over Pondicherry Lodge, he could hardly leave at a moment's notice, but would need some time to arrange his affairs.
It seems to me a little weak. Is it not more probable that he had arranged his affairs before he set out upon his expedition?
No, I hardly think so. His lair would be too valuable a retreat to give up until he was sure he could do without. They paid Smith well to reserve his launch for their final escape. In a couple of nights, once they had seen what suspicions the papers reported, they would use the Aurora to make their way under cover of darkness to Gravesend, where no doubt they have arranged passage to America or the colonies.
But where is the launch? They could hardly have taken the Aurora to their lodgings.
Quite so. My boys had been up and down the river without result. So I put myself in the place of Small. How could he conceal the launch from the police and yet have her at hand when wanted? I could only think of one way. I might hand the launch over to some boat builder with instructions to make a trifling change in her. She would be removed to his yard and so be effectually concealed, while at the same time available at a few hours' notice.
That seems simple enough.
It is the simple things which are often overlooked. Using my seaman's rig, I inquired at all the yards down the river. I drew blank at 15, but at the 16th, Jacobson's, I learned that the Aurora had been handed over 2 days ago by a wooden-legged man with some trivial directions as to her rudder.
Astounding.
Oh, lucky guess.
At that moment, who should come down but Mordecai Smith himself? I want the Aurora tonight, he bellowed. 8 o'clock sharp, mind, for I have 2 gentlemen who won't be kept waiting. Thus informed, I departed, stationing a boy at the yard as a sentry. He is to stand at the water's edge and wave his handkerchief when the Aurora launches. It will be a strange thing if we do not take men, treasure, and all.
You've planned it all very neatly, whether they are the right men or not. But if the affair were in my hands, I should have had a body of police in Jacobson's yard and arrested them when they came down.
Which would have been never. This man Small is a shrewd fellow. He would send a scout ahead, and if anything made him suspicious, he would lie snug for another week. But wait. Do I see a handkerchief? Surely. Yes, there is a white flutter over yonder.
Yes, it is your boy. I can see him plainly.
And there is the Aurora, going like the devil. Full speed ahead, engineer. Make after that launch. By heaven, I shall never forgive myself if she proves to have the heels of us.
She is very fast. I doubt if we shall catch her.
We must catch her. Heap it on, stokers. Make her do all she can. If we burn the boat to cinders, we must have them.
We were fairly after her now. The furnaces roared and the powerful engines whizzed and clanked like a great metallic heart. We flashed past barges, steamers, merchant vessels, in and out, behind one and round the other. Voices hailed us out of the darkness, but still we thundered on, following close upon the Aurora's track.
Pile it on, men! Pile it on! Get every pound of steam you can!
I think we gain a little.
I am sure of it. We shall be upon her in a very few minutes.
Inspector, fire up the searchlights. Point them at the Aurora.
Searchlights on, sir.
There! There's Small at the stern, with the treasure box between his knees.
A wooden-legged man, just like you said. But what is that by his side? Is that an animal of some kind?
The boys at the tiller. There's Mordecai Smith stripped to the waist and shoveling coals for dear life.
You there! Pull over! Stop! In the name of the law!
You'll never take us, you devils!
Holmes, the animal. The animal is moving.
That's no animal, Watson. That is the Andaman savage.
My God, look at him, dancing about like a child.
Ready your revolver. Fire if he raises his arm.
I think... There in his hand, the blowpipe.
Fire!
Got him.
He's fallen off into the Thames.
That is the last we'll see of our savage. But look, Watson. Embedded in the wall behind you.
Oh, what are those devilish darts?
It would seem we were hardly quick enough with our pistols. We've had a lucky escape.
Sir, they've put the Aurora hard rudder.
What? But there's no outlet here.
They're going to ground her on the bank.
After them! We cannot let Small slip through our fingers at the last.
The boat's grounded!
And there goes the wooden-legged man over the side, moving like the devil.
He's making a run for it. If Small should reach the shore...
Now, hold on, he's stopped. Why is he stopped?
It's his stump. His stump is stuck in the mud of the riverbank.
Then we have him at last. Jones, have your men bring him aboard. I want a word with this Jonathan Small.
We brought our launch alongside, but Small was so firmly anchored that it was only by throwing a rope over his shoulders that we were able to haul him out like some evil fish. The 2 Smiths, father and son, came aboard meekly enough when commanded. We searched the Aurora and soon found an iron chest of Indian workmanship upon the deck. Though there was no key, this, without question, was the ill-omened treasure of the Sholtos. As we steamed slowly back upstream, we flashed our searchlights in every direction, but there was no sign of the savage islander. Somewhere at the bottom of the Thames lay the bones of that strange visitor to our shores.
Well, Jonathan Small, I'm sorry that it has come to this.
As am I, sir. I don't believe I can swing for this job. I'll give you my word that I never raised hand against Mr. Sholto. It was that little hellhound, Tonga, who shot one of his cursed darts into him. I welted the little devil for it, but it was done, and I could not undo it.
Have a cigar. Small, you are under the charge of Mr. Athelney Jones of Scotland Yard. He's going to bring you up to my rooms, and I shall ask you for a true account of the matter. You must make a clean breast of it, for if you do, I think I can prove the man was dead before ever you reached the room.
That he was, sir. I never got such a turn in my life as when I climbed through that window and saw him grinning death's grin.
Ah, here comes Jones. Remember, you must be as honest with him as you've been with me.
Well, Holmes, you must confess you cut it rather fine. It was all we could do to overhaul the Aurora.
I certainly did not know she was such a clipper.
Smith claims if he'd had another man to help him with the engines, we should never have caught her. He also swears he knows nothing of this Norwood business.
Neither he did. We told him nothing, only he was to get something handsome if we reached our vessel outbound for the Brazils.
Well, if he has done no wrong, we shall see that no wrong comes to him. We are pretty quick in catching our men, but not so quick to condemn them. Now, Doctor, we shall land you presently at Vauxhall Bridge with the treasure box. I need hardly remind you that this is most irregular, but an agreement is an agreement. Where's the key, Small?
At the bottom of the river.
We've had enough trouble with you already, Small.
I'm afraid you'll have to break the chest open, Watson. After you've presented the treasure to Miss Morstan, bring the box back with you to Baker Street. You will find us there, and we shall hear Small's no doubt extraordinary tale.
They landed me at Vauxhall, and within a quarter hour arrived at Mrs. Cecil Forrester's. I found Miss Morstan alone, waiting for me in the drawing room.
Dr. Watson, what news have you brought me?
I have brought something better than news. I have brought you a fortune.
Is that the treasure?
Yes, the great Agra treasure. Half of it is yours and half is Thaddeus Sholto's. There will be few richer young ladies in England. Is it not glorious?
If I have it, I owe it to you.
No, not to me, but to my friend Sherlock Holmes. I could never have followed the clues which taxed even his genius. As it was, we very nearly lost it all in the final moments. But the adventure is over. I got leave to bring the treasure with me, as you should be the first to see it.
It would be of the greatest interest to me. What a pretty box. Indian work, I suppose? But where's the key?
Lost in the Thames. However, if I may borrow Mrs. Forrester's poker. Come on. There!
Empty!
Oh, thank God.
Why do you say that?
Because you are again within my reach. Because I love you, Mary, as truly as ever a man loved a woman. Because this treasure, these riches sealed my lips. Now that they are gone, I can tell you how I love you. That is why I said thank God.
Ben, John, I say thank God too.
Whoever had lost a treasure that night, I knew that I had gained one.
Empty? The treasure box was empty? This is your doing, Small.
No living man has any right to it unless it be 3 Andaman convicts and myself. I know they would have had me do just what I did and throw the treasure into the Thames rather than let it go to the kin of Sholto or Morstan.
You are lying, Small. If you wanted to throw the treasure into the Thames, it would have been easier for you to throw in box and all.
Easier for me to throw and easier for you to recover. The man that was clever enough to hunt me down is clever enough to pick an iron box from the bottom of a river. But scattered over 5 miles or so, it might be a harder job.
This is a very serious matter, Small. If you had helped justice instead of thwarting
Justice! Justice? Where's the justice that I should have to give up my loot to those that never earned it? 20 long years in that fever-ridden swamp, all day at work under the sun, all night chained up in the filthy convict huts.
You forget that we know nothing of this. We have not heard your story and cannot tell if justice was originally on your side.
Sir, I can see that I have you to thank for these bracelets on my wrists. Still, you have been fair-spoken to me. If you want to hear my story, I have no wish to hold it back.
I can ask no more. Tell us your tale, Small.
Well, sir, when I turned 18, I joined the 3rd Buffs, just starting for India. But I wasn't destined to do much soldiering, for a crocodile took my leg when I was swimming in the Ganges. When I limped out of the hospital with this timber toe strapped to my stump, I found myself out of the army and a useless cripple, not yet in my 20th year. Well, I never was in luck's way long, good or bad. Suddenly, the great Indian mutiny broke out around us. 200,000 black devils loose, and the country a perfect hell. Us Europeans retreated to the Agra fortress where the nearest troops were stationed, but there was no great safety there either, for we were short-handed, and it was a fight of the millions against the hundreds. I was selected to take charge of an isolated gate with 2 Sikh troops under my command. I was pretty proud of this, since I was a royal recruit and a game-legged one at that. For 3 nights I kept watch with my Punjabis. Tall, fierce-looking chaps. Muhammad Singh and Abdullah Khan by name. They could talk English pretty well, but I could get little out of them. Finding that my companions would not be led into conversation, I took out my pipe and laid down my musket to light a match. In an instant, the two Sikhs were upon me. One of them snatched my firelock up and levelled it at my head, while the other held a great knife to my throat.
Don't make a noise.
What is this, mutiny?
The fort is safe enough. There are no rebel dogs this side of the river.
Listen to me, Sahib. You must either be with us now or silenced forever. Which is it to be, death or life? We can only give you 3 minutes to decide, for all must be done before they arrive.
How can I decide? You haven't told me what you want of me yet. But I can tell you now, if it's anything against the fort, you can drive your knife home and welcome.
It is nothing against the fort. We only ask you to be rich. 1/4 of the treasure shall be yours.
What is this treasure?
There is a wealthy Raja in the north. To protect his wealth during the mutiny, he has put his most precious stones and pearls into an iron box and sent it, by a trusted servant, to the fort at Agra for protection. This servant, under the guise of a merchant named Ahmed, is now in the city and desires to gain access to the fort.
He has with him my foster brother, Dost Akbar, who has promised this night to lead him to our post, where he will find Muhammad Singh and myself awaiting him. The great treasure of the Raja shall be divided amongst us. What say you, Sahib? Are you with us, or must we look upon you as an enemy?
You must swear by the bones of your father, by the honor of your mother, and by the cross of your faith.
I am ready to be rich. I will so swear.
It is well. Here is your rifle back, Sahib.
We have now only to wait for my brother and the merchant. We will go to the gate and...
Halt! Is that? Yes, the glint of a lantern on the moat. They're here. Earlier than we had guessed.
You will challenge him, Sahib, as usual. Give him no cause for fear. Send him in with us, and we shall do the rest while you stand guard.
Who goes there?
Friends, your protection, Sahib. Your protection for the unhappy merchant Ahmed. I have travelled far with my poor possessions that I might seek the shelter of the Agra fort.
Who is there with you?
Only my bodyguard, Dost Akbar.
What do you have in the bundle?
An iron box which contains 1 or 2 little family matters which are of no value. Yet I am not a beggar. I shall reward you, young Sahib, if you will give me the shelter I ask.
Take him to the main guard.
Your blessing, Sahib.
The two Sikhs closed in upon the merchant, and Dost Akbar walked behind. Never was a man so surrounded by death. Suddenly, I heard voices and a scuffle. A moment later, to my horror, I saw the merchant run like the wind in my direction. Close at his heels, bounding like a tiger, came Dost Akbar, knife in hand. I could see that if the merchant passed me, he would save himself yet. So I cast my firelock between his legs as he raced past. He tripped, and ere he could stagger to his feet, the Sikh was upon him, burying the knife in his side.
My God.
You see, gentlemen, I keep my promise. I'm telling you exactly how it happened, whether in my favour or not.
Pray continue.
Very well. The treasure box lay where Ahmed had dropped it, and together we opened the lid. The light of the lantern gleamed upon a blinding collection of gems. Diamonds, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, and hundreds of pearls. We counted, and then carried the box to a hollow where we buried our treasure. We swore then and there that the four should always act for all. That is an oath I have never broken. Well, you gentlemen know what came of the Indian mutiny. Fresh troops came pouring in and cleared the Pandys out. Peace settled upon the country, and we four began to hope we might safely away with our plunder. Our hopes were dashed, however, by being arrested as the murderers of Ahmed.
Jonathan Small, Muhammad Singh, Abdullah Khan, Dost Akbar. You have been found guilty of the murder of the merchant Ahmed Mara. I hereby sentence you to penal servitude in the Andaman Islands for life.
Have you ever been to the Andamans, gentlemen? It's a dreary, fever-stricken place, hundreds of miles from land and infested with wild cannibal natives ready to blow a poison dart at you if given half a chance. They put us to work, digging and ditching all day. It might have driven me mad, but I was always pretty stubborn. I just bided my time looking for a way to escape. There were very few whites there, and so I soon found myself working for the surgeon, Dr. Summerton. He and the other officers would meet nightly in the surgery to play cards. One thing soon struck me. Night after night, 2 soldiers left the table poorer men. 2 officers named Sholto and Morstan. It was enough to set me thinking. I decided to take a chance and speak to them.
Well, Small, what is it?
Major Sholto, Captain Morstan, I wish to have your advice. Who is the proper person to discuss hidden treasure? I know where 500,000 lies and thought perhaps if I was to hand it over to the proper authorities, they might shorten my sentence.
500,000?
Quite that, sir, in jewels and pearls. It lies ready and would belong to the first comer.
It would belong to the government, Small. To the government.
You think, sir, that I should give this information to the Governor-General?
Let's not be hasty. Let's hear about it first. Give us the facts.
I told them the whole story, with small changes so they could not identify the places. When I'd finished, they stepped aside to discuss things, and I could see by the twitch of their lips there was a struggle going on within. Finally, they came back.
Look here, Small. My friend and I have talked it over, and we've come to the conclusion that this secret is hardly a government concern, but a private matter. Now, the question is, what price would you ask for it?
There's only one bargain a man in my position can make. Freedom for me and my 3 companions.
And how can we gain your freedom? You know very well you ask an impossibility.
Nothing of the sort. There are plenty of little yachts and yawls at Calcutta. Bring one over, and once we're safe on the Indian coast, you will have done your part of the bargain.
It would be easier if there were only one.
None or all. We 4 have sworn it.
You see, Morstan? Small is a man of his word. I think we can trust him.
It's a dirty business. Still, it would save our commissions.
Well, Small, I suppose we must try and meet you. We must first, of course, test the truth of your story. Tell me where the treasure is hid, and
Not so fast. I must first have the consent of my 3 comrades. It is 4 or none with us.
Nonsense! What do 3 blackfellows have to do with our agreement?
Black or blue, we all go together.
Very well. Now I will summon them together.
Well, the matter ended at a second meeting, in which Muhammad Singh, Abdullah Khan, Dost Akbar, and I agreed to draw maps to where the treasure was hid, putting the sign of the 4 at the bottom. Major Sholto was then to go to India and test our story. If he found the box, then Captain Morstan was to take the 4 to the fortress, where we would divide the treasure. All this we sealed by the most solemn oaths. The villain Sholto went off to India, but he never came back. Morstan followed him to Agra and found, as we suspected, that the treasure was gone. The scoundrel had stolen it all. From that day I lived only for vengeance. To escape, to have my hand upon Sholto's throat, that was my one thought. Even the Agra treasure was the smaller thing than the slaying of Sholto. 100 times I've killed him in my sleep, strangled him, smothered him,
Get on with it, Small!
Well, gentlemen, I'll weary you with my story, and I know that my friend Jones is impatient to get me stowed in chains. I'll make it as short as I can. I told you that I worked for the surgeon. One day a little Andaman Islander was brought in, venomous as a snake, but sick to death. I took him in hand, and after a couple of months I got him able to walk. He took a kind of fancy to me. Tonga, for that was his name, was a fine boatman and owned a big, roomy canoe. When I learned this, I at last saw my chance to escape. I told Tonga to bring his boat to an old unguarded
And
wharf.
together you escaped out to sea. Yes, yes. I've little doubt that if you told us all your adventures with this Tonga fella, we'd be here until the sun rose.
In the interest of taming Jones's temper, Perhaps you can tell us what happened after your arrival in London.
As you wish. Tonga and I, we drifted around the world until several years ago we at last found ourselves in England. I had no great difficulty in finding where Sholto lived. I made friends with someone who could help me.
And just who was that?
I name no names.
It can be none other than Lal Rao, the butler. It would appear that you did actually catch one fish in your great haul, Jones.
I'm tired of this.
Patience, Jones. I believe Small is almost done with his tale.
I tried to get at Sholto and the jewels in many ways, but he was sly and always guarded. One day, however, I got word that he was dying. I hurried at once to the lodge, mad that he should use death to slip from my clutches. Looking through the window, I saw him lying in his bed with his sons on either side. I'd have come through and taken my chances with all three of them, but even as I looked, his jaw dropped, and I knew that he was gone. It was too much that he should be taken to the grave without some token from the men he had betrayed. So before I left, I gave mark to our hatred and scrawled the sign of the four upon his wall.
The four crosses, of course.
I believe I can take up the tale from here. For some years there was no news to be had from Pondicherry Lodge. At last, however, came what you had long waited for. The treasure was discovered, but in an inconvenient place, being at the top of the house in Bartholomew Sholto's laboratory. With your wooden leg, this would seem an impossible task, but you soon learn from your confederate about the existence of a trapdoor in the roof. It is only natural that Tonga, with his great ability, should be given the task of ascending the house. But as ill luck would have it, Bartholomew Sholto was still in the room.
To his cost. You seem to know as much about it as if you was there, sir.
Then it was Tonga who shot Sholto.
Thought he'd done something clever killing him, Tonga did. For when I came up, he was strutting about like a peacock. Very much surprised was he when I beat him with his own rope, cursing him for a bloodthirsty imp. I took the treasure box, leaving behind the sign of the four on the table to show that the jewels had at last come back to those who had most right to them. I then slid down the rope, Tonga pulled it up after, closed the window, and made off the way he had come. I don't know that I have anything else to tell you.
A very remarkable account. There is nothing new to me in the latter part of your narrative, except that Tonga brought his own rope. That I did not know. And I had hoped that Tonga had lost his darts, yet he managed to shoot one at us in the boat.
He had, sir, except the one in his blowpipe.
Of course. I had not thought of that.
You gentlemen have not done me a good turn. But I believe my best defence is to let the world know how badly I was served by Major Sholto and how innocent I am of the death of his son. Is there any other point you'd like to ask about?
I think not. Thank you.
Well, Holmes, you are a connoisseur of crime and a man to be humoured. But duty is duty. I shall feel better when we have our storyteller under lock and key. I am much obliged for your assistance. Of course, you will be wanted at the trial. Good night to you.
Good night, gentlemen both.
Well, there is the end of our little drama.
Yes, sadly.
I fear that it may be my last investigation by your side. Miss Morstan has done me the honor to accept my offer of marriage.
I feared as much. Really, I cannot congratulate you.
Are you dissatisfied with my choice?
Not at all. I think she's one of the most charming ladies I ever met. But love is an emotional thing, opposed to that true cold reason which I place above all else. I should never marry myself, lest I bias my judgment.
I trust that my judgment may survive the ordeal. But you look weary.
Yes. The reaction is already upon me. I shall be as limp as a rag for a week.
The division seems rather unfair. You have done all the work in this business. I get a wife out of it. Jones gets the credit. What remains for you?
For me, Watson? For me, there still remains the dull routine of existence, the stagnation of reality, and the cocaine.
Our cast tonight included Andrew Harrington as Sherlock Holmes, Chris Chiampa as Dr. Watson, Nellie Farrington as Mary Morstan, John Deshane as Thaddeus Sholto, Tom Champion as Athelney Jones, and Jared Height as Jonathan Small. Our ensemble cast was Sarah Brinks, Joev Dubak, Bonnie Gardner, James Colleen, Liz Salazar, Mike Sprague, and Jacob Summer. Our Foley team was Samantha Amadeo and Cal Gabar, with sound by Terry Burson and Chris Sebelensky. Our stage manager was Lorianne Cohen, and our producer was Chris DeCald. Our script was by Jeremy B. Holstein, and the entire production was under the direction of Jess Viator and Jeremy Holstein. This is Joev Dubak inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater next time for another adventure. Until then, the game is, and will ever be, afoot.